This is a true story of one of the most terrifying nights I've ever experienced in my life. Now, to preface this story, I'll give you a little background information on me, of what I was like when this happened. At the time, I was in middle school and wasn't very happy with my life. I was constantly teased about being overweight and was even bullied to the point of physical assault by others. Trying to tell adults only resulted in worse things happening to me. I was a preteen who wanted to die and hated myself more than anything else in the world. I was isolated, emotionally, and had no one to talk to. My parents aren't the kind of people or forgiving. They've always made it clear that they have no remorse or worry for what ultimately happens to me. So, like anyone that feels alone, I was constantly, seeing things. Oh yes, I could see strange things all around me. Things others didn't consider odd or, couldn't even see. On the night in question that I'm about to talk about, it was a Friday night. I only remember because I was able to sleep in without any incident or anyone really bothering me. I lay in the room that I shared with my baby sister. We're only 5 years apart in age, and despite that, I get along with her very well. Not so much with my other sisters. All of them were older than me. As I lay in my twin-sized bed, I did my best to fall asleep. Though it escaped my grasp, and all I could do was simply lay there and wait till I finally tired enough to sleep. Apparently, it didn't take as long as I thought, but it didn't last. With an odd taste in the back of my mouth, I opened my eyes to see I was facing my sister's bed and the door to our room. It was wide open because our parents wouldn't allow us to close it, even though having it open always made it impossible for me to sleep. Mainly because our bedroom was a corner turn from the hallway. Leaving a space like that made it impossible to see if someone was coming. At night, when the house was dark, I could see shadows forming and moving close to the edge. I was always scolded for telling my parents about them, and instead of easing any of my fears, they only made me feel like I was insane for even thinking that it was possible that I could see one of the shadows, as if something were going to peek from around the corner at any moment, but, of course it never did. I tried to focus on something else and return my gaze to my sister's bed. Oddly enough, it was empty. I paused to listen and wondered if she was simply in the bathroom, but there was no sound, nor any light coming from the bathroom. If someone was in the bathroom, I could see the light from under the door because it showed on the wall and could be seen from where I lay in my bed. Without any real reason, I sat up. Thinking back on it, I'm not sure I even did this of my own accord. I was afraid of the dark, and kind of still am, but apparently that didn't stop me that night. Without any caution or thought, I made my way to the hallway and found that the front door was wide open. I then looked to the other end of the mobile home that I lived in with my parents. Their room was at the very end, and their door was also open. I walked past the front door to my parents' room and looked around to find that both of them were not in bed. I looked up to the bathroom, and it was empty too. Heading over to their walk-in closet, no one was in there either. My brain was screaming for me to hide, to stop and just stay still. But I left my parents' room and went to tell my oldest sister. She had the room next to mine, and going into her room, I found it was empty as well. I closed the door to her room and headed over to the front door to see if someone was out there. I figured I would see them standing there, or maybe even just sitting. Nothing was out there. I was simply confused. Where had all my family gone? Why was I alone and the door wide open? Thank God my mind finally took over from my body, and I ran to my room, intending to hide in there with the door shut and locked. At least, that was the plan. And as I ran to my room, well, I didn't make it. I was reaching the end of the hall, getting ready to turn into my room, when it happened. I slammed into something. So solid, but nothing was there. I remember the horrible sensation of biting my tongue and feeling blood drip down my face, getting on the carpet, and that I was so scared. I was really, truly terrified. But I didn't have to deal with that much longer, because it all turned black on me. I woke up the next day in bed, feeling a horrible ache behind my eyes, and my nose still hurt. Sitting up slowly, I could hear the television on in the living room, and the sounds of food being cooked. I stumbled out of the bed and went to the hallway, looking around, and seeing my parents were sitting in the kitchen. I wanted to ask why they'd left, where they'd gone, and what happened. I did manage to say, "You all left me alone last night." I would tell you about the whole argument that followed, but I'll keep that short. I was told that I'd been dreaming, that I watched too many scary movies, and that I needed to stop making things up. I was treated like I usually was, with dismissal over anything I felt. I left them and headed back to my room, head staring down at my feet. Then I saw something caked on the carpet, something dried. I dropped down and started to pick at the stuff, and brought up dirty, brown, dried blood. I thought, yeah, this is enough. This would prove it. But instead, they all simply said, "It's mud." Well, it was the dry season in the desert. They say I lied, and I made it up for attention. I need to stop watching horror movies. I remember that night, though, and I know and feel deep down inside me that someone is watching me. Not at all times, but every time I'm out, I can feel like someone is watching me just far enough that I can't see them. I've been told by only a few people that if I feel that way, it means someone is watching me. But even though as we've evolved, humans still retain a few senses that can alert us. So, even if I thought I was alone at times, I knew someone was watching me, but wouldn't let me see them. This is real. I know it sounds so out there and far-fetched, but this happened to me. This horrible thing that I wish was a story, that I could laugh off and say, "Ha, gotcha," is actually something that I had to suffer through. I'll never forget that night, no matter how hard I try. Because everyone left me alone at a time when I was so scared, and there are moments in your life that no matter what happens, you will never forget. And, well, there are moments in your life that no matter what happens, you will never forget.